Hey guys, recording now. Okay, so I was asked on Instagram for a review of the Joker movie. So I thought I'd record it here and I'd just push go live on Facebook to say g'day. So let me just real quick try and give you a decent background and then we go, blah, 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 the Joker. Is that a good background? Yeah, let's go with that one. It was an interesting movie. It was certainly, actually, that's a very busy background. A very interesting movie that I wouldn't even say is, well, entertaining's a bad word because entertaining often means that you enjoyed it. And I won't even say I enjoyed it. The time flew, so it did something. But boy, oh boy, if you want to go and take your kids to see a movie about their favorite, happy-go-lucky fun and games. Have I got any of my Joker memorabilia around here? No, my little boy, Joel, he loves the Joker. My little boy who loves the Joker. It's his favorite character, right? Out of all of them, Batman, Superman, all that, Joker is his favorite character. He won't be going to see this movie, right? It is not a superhero movie. So it's, it's interesting. So spoilers, right? We're going to have a chat about it. If you haven't seen it, normally I say if you haven't seen it, go see it. But there'll be some people that are watching this, probably Naomi's included, that probably won't rush out to see it. And maybe she'll never see it. So this might even be for some people who aren't going to see it. But I think, even Naomi, I think Naomi should go see it. I think everyone should see it, but not to be entertained by a Hollywood epic, but maybe to be challenged by something that's going to make you think. So we're going to talk about it a little bit. And I'd love to hear your comments in the, hear your take in the comments if you have seen it. So it's really, really interesting. So let's sort of start overall that it's not entertaining. And by the way, if you're only going to watch a few minutes of this and you want to make some quick cash, put every penny you've got on, is it Joaquin? Is that how to pronounce his name? Joaquin Phoenix, to win Best Actor. Having lived now 47 years and been a movie fan for most of that, I know the sort of roles that the Academy likes. That man is going to win Best Actor. If you are currently getting 2% on your savings, don't bet your house on it, of course, because stranger things have happened. But if everything goes the way that it normally does, if history is anything to go by, that role, that portrayal, that tour de force, if you will, is a clinic in acting. It's kind of like, it's interesting that what was the movie was it Split or was it Glass? Whichever one was the second one after Unbreakable, the second one. I haven't seen the third, but that one was a tour de force in acting by, is it James Masterson? The guy who played Professor Xavier in X-Men. That was a masterclass in, what a layman here thinks of as acting, because I have no idea about what acting is. That really looked like great acting to me. In that movie, as does this. But then, you know what's weird? I thought Michael Keaton in Multiplicity was great acting, just because the same actor made me think in that comedy movie was it the 90s? I love that movie Multiplicity and the acting role that Michael Keaton portrayed in that, because he made me think that those 4 clones of himself were all separate clones. And to me, that was great acting, even though it was a comedy. And I think it was directed by the Groundhog Day guy, Egon, out of Ghostbusters, Harold Ramis, I think. I may be wrong. Someone can correct me down below. And I'll say, you idiot, you don't know anything. All right, but getting back to the Joker. It will win Best Actor, right? It'll probably win Best Picture, only because I don't know any of the other. Well, there's a whole bunch of movies that haven't been released there. I think Once Upon in Hollywood is looking good, the Tarantino one, and I haven't seen it, so I can't comment. But boy, that acting role. So let's get to what the movie's about. So Arthur Fleck, they give him a name at the start. And that was interesting because with the history of the Joker, they often don't give him a name. Now, I know in the old 1989 Batman, Jack Nicholson, they gave him a name, Jack Napier. But supposedly in the comics, the Joker is a bit of an enigma. They never give him a name. And I love how they start by giving him a name in this, Arthur Fleck, but then they really take that name away by the end of it. They say he's adopted. Arthur Fleck isn't his name. It's just the name that mother gave him that turned out to be a doctor. So once again, they take him from having a identity, I suppose, to being completely identityless, with the exception of the Joker character. By the end, that's all he's left with. His identity is the Joker character. Boy, oh boy, really interesting. And he goes from being a Fleck, the son of his mother, to being a Wayne. He's convinced himself through his, mentally ill mum that Thomas Wayne, Batman's dad, is his father as well, to being identityless. So boy, oh boy. But let me just go back to the start. So he's given the name Arthur Fleck, and this movie isn't an entertaining superhero movie, as I said before. It is a delving into mental illness, into how could a supervillain, because they don't give him superpowers, they don't give him super strength, they don't even really give him super intellect in this incarnation. They just focus the entire movie on his mental illness. That's it, right? His entire movie is just on the challenges that create mental illness, how to live with it, how this person, live with it, if you could consider what this character goes through living with it, what that might, what might have perpetuated it, because they go into a little bit, only they don't show it on screen, but they talk about what he had to put up with as a child, being abused, how that led to an affliction, and the laughing. That's what they say, the laughing thing, the Joker. Historically, the Joker was just, oh, he always laughs. Well, why is that? And they give it a medical, almost a Tourette's, I can't remember the name of the syndrome, but they give it a Tourette's syndrome-like explanation, that he's not laughing because he's amused. He's laughing because it's an uncontrollable mental disorder like Tourette's, whether the Tourette's syndrome has tics or, again, the Tourette's is known as you can't control yourself with swearing, but Tourette's is more than that, supposedly. And again, I'm totally a layman on this. I don't know anything. But supposedly Tourette's is, not only it's tics, it's people going ring and, making noises and things that is uncontrollable. And some of those noises are swear words, as the legend has it in. Here's how stupid I am. My knowledge of Tourette's started with What About Bob, starring Bill Murray, again, back in the 90s. And Bill Murray defined it as the uncontrollable shouting of profanity. And so again, I understand that just from another little show that it's more than that. But that's what they give the laughing thing, is it's an uncontrollable thing. It's not, he's not amused by this, by whatever horrors are going on him. It's a medical thing. And so that's there really from the start. But here's kind of the biggest thing, is the lines between, it's such a challenging movie. As I said, it wasn't entertaining. It wasn't fun. It wasn't a superhero movie. It wasn't a typical origin story. There was no real hero. There was no real villains. There was no protagonist, no antagonist. It was just a tragedy in the life of a mentally ill person that has very at arm's length familiar tones, in that we've seen this character called the Joker before. We've heard the name Thomas Wayne, or even for the layman, Bruce Wayne and Batman, but it does even seem to me like the Bruce Wayne bit with the pearls, the Batman origin story, that was completely incidental to the story, unnecessary really, and was probably just there so that you could sort of say, yeah, this Joker guy is the Joker, from the Batman thing. But boy, oh boy, the Bruce Wayne thing didn't even feel very satisfying, by cramming in. It's like, is it shoehorn where they shove it in there just cause? They shoehorn in the Bruce Wayne Pearl scene. Maybe it was necessary. We'll maybe chat about that, as we get to the climax, because that was towards the end. But yeah, it just isn't a Batman movie. Don't think you're going to take your kids to see a Batman movie. So, so they start off with, he's a part-time clown. He's a wannabe stand-up comic. He's an adult. They don't start with any of the children stuff. He's an adult with an ill mum. He's looking after his mum, and it's showing some of his life, relatively uninteresting, and the lines between what's real and what's in his head I think there's multiple layers to it. Now, I've only seen it once, and I've got to go back and see it again. But it just does seem like there's a bit of an inception, a bit of you don't know what you're watching is real. Now, I first got the hint of that with what I might call the second layer. So the first layer is there's somewhere he's obviously deluding himself, where he's imagining things that aren't real. Like he goes onto this show, like a Dave Letterman type show, and it cuts to him, and it's very quick to realize that he's either deluding this or remembering it, but then you think that it's not happening in real time, but then he's in real it sort of just goes to show that it's either a memory, but then you think, no, there's no way this happened. So then you really realize that he's deluding himself because he becomes the center of attention. The Robert De Niro character pulls him down out of the audience and says, if I had a son, I'd want him to be like you. So you know that he's not remembering this. You know it's delusion. You know it's a wish. It's a fantasy. So that's sort of the first level of delusion, and they make it quite obvious. But then there's other scenes where it's not so, like the second level is, and this is where I kind of cottoned onto it, when this beautiful lady who's a neighbor of his, he seduces her successfully. And I think there is no way that seduction happened. And as someone who knows how to punch above one's weight, so to speak, I know that even that punching above one's weight was not happening. So I knew it was delusion, even though they played it more straight than the first level. Meaning they definitely make the De Niro guy saying, oh, you're my boy, or oh, if I had a son, I would want him to be like you. The next level, they don't make it as obvious that the girl is a delusion. But most of you probably would have realized, yeah, that's not happening. And it wasn't. But they keep it going. It's as if they are filming it as if she, this beautiful woman, although, because she sort of subtly flirts with him in the elevator quite unrealistically. But maybe at a stretch it could happen if she was a bit down on her luck and would have taken any man. Because if she's living in this apartment building, we know that she's not well-to-do. So it maybe was a stretch, but I was definitely thinking, nah, this is part of his psycho thing. Even though they definitely don't hand it to you. But I wonder if even there's a third layer or even a fourth, where more of what you think is real is actually going on in his head. And perhaps the fourth layer might even be the whole thing. Is just a fantasy going on in his head, perhaps. But of course, we know it's all just bullcrap and it's all just, a story, of course. But boy, are there layers to it. So he's living his life mentally ill. But the biggest plot point, the first main plot point is he's bullied and he's beat up. And, well, you know what? Even that, do we know that that's real? When those kids... because he's doing a clown job, right? And he's got a sign. He's been, in America, you see, you see it here in Australia as well. You see the Domino's person on the side of the road, Domino's Pizza, holding a sign saying, get a pizza now. And you see it in America where they're spinning the signs and they're doing all this clever stuff. Well, he's a bad version of that. He's just holding the sign, he's spinning it around, and some kids mug him and steal the sign. And then they run away stealing the sign. And you got to even wonder, did that really happen? Now, I suppose if I had to guess, I would say that's real. Even though, when they're whacking him with the sign, the sign explodes into a million fragments, as if signs wouldn't do that, really. So I wonder if even that, and they never tell you whether it was real or imagined, but he loses the sign, hence he gets in trouble at his work. And so he gets mugged by these kids who not only steal the sign, at the end of that, they smash him with the sign, it explodes, and they mug him, they beat him up. And so when he goes back, one of the other clowns in his thing says, they beat you up, took your sign or whatever. And you got to take a gun. So he gives him a gun, this other clown. He says, I'll look after you, whatever. And he takes that gun to his next job, which is kids at a hospital. He's dancing around, entertaining the kids. The kids are actually enjoying it or whatever. And the gun falls out of his costume. And he gets fired and he gets in big trouble. It's an awkward moment. He kind of pulls it off with the kids. They don't go, he's just sort of clowny kind of and whatever. But he gets in massive trouble, of course, and gets fired. And it's, it's an awkward moment. Of course, he gets fired. And but now he's got this gun. And there's even the question of, did that other guy, and I think that's how he interpreted it, the other guy gave him the gun in order to get him fired on purpose, because I think he kills him later. He kills the guy later, I think. But anyway, so now he's got this gun, and then he's in the train, and this is where really it starts to get jokery. Is he's in the train, and these three idiots, typical Wall Street, I suppose. Is it Wall Street in Gotham City? I don't even know. These three idiots mug him, and they attack him, and they beat him up or whatever, and he's got the gun, so he kills two of them in self-defense. Right? He shoots two of them who were beating him up. And then he wounds this third one, and this third one's running away, and he follows him, and he just executes him. Right? And there's the thing. Many of these scenes are the reason that I won't be taking my 11-year-old who loves the Joker to see this. That's one of the scenes, one of many. But the other thing is, he wouldn't even be entertained by it, I don't think. Maybe he would, but I don't want to subject my 11-year-old to this movie at all. So he follows this guy down and literally just boom, executes him in cold blood. Could you say it's self-defense? Maybe you're in a psychosis. I don't know. But the two, he did it while he was being attacked. The third one is running away after he gets shot in the leg or something, so he's bleeding a bit, and so he's limping away. But he's definitely running, trying to get away from this guy who's killed his two bad guy buddies. And, Arthur, Joker, in the clown suit, just goes and executes him. And so what that leads to after that is, because he gets away with it, there's no coppers or anything. The police don't arrest him or anything. But it leads to Gotham, which is, again, probably me wondering whether this is level 2 of his just delusion, because it leads to Gotham embracing this kill the rich, like an uprising of the poor and downtrodden masses, being inspired by this clown figure who has murdered these three well-to-do Wall Street bullies. And it's inspired a movement that is inspired by this figurehead of this clown figure. So the world starts, the downtrodden masses start wearing clown faces as a movement, a political kind of movement kind of thing. Unintended, that, completely random. Arthur didn't mean this. Joker didn't mean this to happen, but he's become kind of a figurehead symbol, not him personally, just the clown that he happened to accidentally do. Pretty meta, really, if meta is even the right word. That the Joker's chaotic character just accidentally, got mugged and got given a gun. It all just seemed to happen chaotically and randomly, even this political movement that he becomes the accidental figurehead of. He didn't intend to, rise up above the father, Thomas Wayne, the Bruce Wayne dad, rich guy. None of this was intended to be an uprising that he set out to get revenge on the father who abandoned him. It was all just random and chaos that led to it. So the next, I suppose, major kind of thing that you wonder how much of this is real and how much isn't, is he goes and does a comedy show because he's a wannabe stand-up comedian. He's writing down all his kind of crazy, and I don't know that they diagnose it as schizophrenic or as, I don't know if they even give this laughing thing a name, or if they just say he has an affliction or he has a syndrome or whatever. They definitely say it's an illness on it, but I don't think they mention schizophrenia. I don't think they mention by name any of the mental illnesses, but he writes musings in his head down. Some of them are him telling himself he's writing down jokes, but some of them are he's just, writing down things like, I hope my death makes more sense, CENTS. And I don't know if that's saying he's going to make a career out of killing himself, but my death is going to make more sense than my life. But anyway, so he's a wannabe stand-up comic writing down jokes. He's got a joke book, and he goes and does a stand-up comedy set. And it's because he's laughing and he can't get over his affliction of just laughing. And he barely etches out a bad, if you could call it a joke. It's horrible. It's, my mum, I can't remember what the joke is. It's bad. It's something like, my mum said, you better work hard at school if you want to be anything. He says, I'm not going to work, Mum. I'm going to be a comedian. Like, it's a horrible joke, and he barely etches it out. But what happens is his hero, the Dave Letterman type character played by Robert De Niro, the talk show host, plays his video of him just bombing on TV, and he says, the big punchline is he kind of says, I'm going to be, they all laughed at me when they said I was going to be a comedian. And now look at me. No one's laughing now. And then Robert De Niro says, you can say that again, buddy, kind of thing, as if, no one's laughing at him and they're supposed to be, because if you're a comedian. And so he gets insulted by this guy that he idolizes, this talk show host that he idolizes. He gets insulted by him. But the video kind of goes, I suppose, 80s or 90s, whenever it's set. I suppose it's set in 80s, is it? There's some 80s songs in there. Well, actually, there's some killer. There's another thing, the soundtrack. I just interviewed here on this channel Sal Valentinetti from American Idol, the great swing singer who sings all the Frank Sinatra and That's Life. If you haven't seen Sal Valentinetti do That's Life, check it out. And that song is in there. It's a great Sinatra fueled soundtrack as well. Really good, kind of unique. Send in the Clowns and some really good period. It feels like a period piece. It really does. It feels like a period piece. Geez, I'm all over the shop. Should have taken notes. Anyway, these are just kind of crazy musings fueled by my man. There you go. Where was that thought going? Okay. So the De Niro character, that he gets let down by the De Niro character. He gets insulted. And then the thing goes, I suppose, viral. That's where I was going. The video of him on the show goes viral, and they get lots and lots of calls. Oh, that was great, or whatever. It gets some action. So De Niro sends some people to invite him on the show. And, so he goes on the show. Probably De Niro's just thinking it's going to be mocking him or whatever, but he dresses up in the clown thing. Because when he was on the stage, he didn't have a clown makeup or anything. It was just him. And then he goes on the show in full Joker regalia, where the finale happens. In the interim, leading up to that, he goes and he convinces himself that he's Thomas Wayne's kid, and he confronts Thomas Wayne and Bruce Wayne, and it turns out that his mum was deluded. He then investigates what happened to his mum by going to Arkham and getting told that he was adopted, because Thomas Wayne tells him he's adopted. That's confirmed by Arkham. So he takes away his identities. He ends up, and again, this is where it probably seems to be back in level one, the real world, so to speak. He goes to the girl's house that we've been convinced throughout all this time that has been his girlfriend, and with him at the whole, through every step of the way. And she wasn't, because then when he goes to her house, she acts as though she doesn't know him. So that tells us, even though they don't tell us overtly, I suppose, that this is the real world, because she sort of acts as though he's just some weird mentally ill guy from down the hall who lives with his mum, because she says something like, is your mum home? What's going on? Because he kills his mum. When he finds out about that he's adopted, and his mum and her partner, ex-partner or whatever back in the day, abused him as a child, chained him to a radiator, just literally abused him. He kills the mum. Doesn't even seem to be maliciously, just pillow on the face, and because mum gets sick. And and then the girl ignores him. So he's lost the girl that he deludedly think he had. He's lost his mum. He's lost his identity, because he didn't know whether he's a Fleck, because her name was Fleck. So he's not a Fleck. He's not a Wayne, because he convinced himself, because the Fleck lady told him that Thomas Wayne was his dad and it was a secret affair. Well, that's all delusion. So that's been taken away. And then he gets invited on this talk show, and the man kind of teases him that he's not going to be a comic. So he hasn't got a career. He hasn't got a job. He hasn't got a hobby. He hasn't got anything to aspire to. The only thing that he's got is this clown persona that seems to have taken off, whether it's in his head and a delusion or not, whatever. And then he goes on this talk show, and he's in the clown makeup. He says to the guy, could you introduce me as Joker? Because that was sort of like the insult that De Niro gave him was Joker. And then he calls him on the talk show. And, his questioning is quite weird, which tells me I wonder if the whole thing is delusion, because the questioning isn't natural. And this is too well made a movie for it to be bad acting, you know? So, but you know, it's not bad acting, or it might just, I don't know. And that's, I suppose, the interesting thing about the movie is it makes you think. And maybe I'm just a dummy. Maybe you guys are just sitting there thinking, you idiot, it was so obvious. You know, maybe it's like at the end of Total Recall. At the end of Total Recall, the director is supposedly saying that the last scene supposedly gives it away as to whether or not the Mars trip was real or all in the head of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Well, I still have questions about Total Recall. Was it real, or was it all part of the delusion, I suppose, that they made in Total Recall? So you guys might be thinking about me about this one. It's so obvious, Glenn. This was real and this is the delusion. I don't know. But to me, as naive and silly as I am, I was just sitting there thoroughly captivated, but by no means entertained. You know, I went between a bit bored, only for slight moments, because it didn't take long before they intrigued me again, between intrigue, boredom, fascination, confusion, thinking about you know, the ramifications of mental illness in a society and what that can do to a person. It was challenging, and wow. So anyway, with all of those things said, when he was being interviewed on the show, you know, he goes, this, you know, mentally ill person with no personality, or maybe when he puts on the makeup, he gets one, because he goes straight up to this elderly, the previous guest, and just gives her a big, long, inappropriate kiss right on the mouth, you know, just gives her a big kiss. Not quite a tonguey, but an inappropriately long one. You know, he just holds her face and he's kissing her the whole, you know, for 5 seconds. And then he just doesn't say anything. She doesn't say anything. He just sits down and then gets interviewed by the De Niro show host comedian character that he idolizes. And yeah, the questioning gets back. And he's fantasized, by the way, about telling a joke. He practices a joke. Knock, knock. Who's there? And he just blows his own brains out. So he tries, and he kind of just fantasizes that he's going to kill himself, and then at least maybe his death will have some meaning and someone will know he exists. Because he says some things like he doesn't feel like he's ever existed. He feels like he's not had 1 minute of happiness his entire life, not 1 minute. So that goes to show the guy who's always laughing has never been happy for one solitary minute of his life, he was saying. And there's nothing that happens. They take away his medication. So they're saying he's medicated, and they have a moment maybe halfway through the movie where the shrink says to him, I'm not going to be able to medicate you anymore. So he says, where am I going to get my medication? And they kind of go, and they don't even answer it. And maybe that's when all the kind of psychotic delusion starts. Maybe it's at that point when he's no longer medicated. So anyway, we're at the end of the movie. He's no longer on his meds. He's, you know, fantasizing about killing himself on this show. And one, you know, the questioning flow leads to him saying, what happens when you cross a mentally ill person with a society that makes him feel abandoned, or words to that effect. And then he says, you know, I don't know if he has a punchline to that, but I was too shocked because he just literally just shoots shoots the De Niro character. Like on TV, right in front of everyone, just boom. And I'm like, whoa. So, yeah, he's, and then he runs away. And again, I think he somehow gets hurt or shot or something, but he's unconscious and they're dragging him. Oh, that's right. He's arrested. He's in a police car. And then his cronies, the disenfranchised masses in the clown masks, break him out of the cop car. He's unconscious. They pull him out of the cop car. They lay him on the cop car in a Jesus-like pose. And then he comes to and he's there and they're cheering him and stuff. So again, you just can't, but they're not overtly saying that is a delusion. But it's got to be, doesn't it? So I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you've seen it, I'd love to hear your thoughts as to whether or not that final scene was part of the delusion or was the whole bloody thing. You know, who knows? But I tell you, they're going to be talking about this one a lot. There's going to be theories. I'm going to be watching some videos because I know nothing. Right? I'm the dumbest of all the people commenting on this. I'm the one who knows least. So don't go down below and say, oh, you're an idiot. Well, do if you want to, but I know nothing. I'm just sitting here kind of saying that don't take your kids to it. There you go. That's the bottom line of this. Don't take your kids. 15 plus was well-deserved, right? My son enjoyed it, but boy, oh boy, he was as challenged and perplexed as I was. This is my 15-year-old son. Yeah, so, all right. I think that was it as far as plot point is concerned. So now we're just left with what the hell was that? So you leave the theater, no end scene. There's not some, it's not part of the DC universe, I'm sure. It's not meant to be any of the other Joker characters you've seen. It's not Jared Leto. It's not Jack Nicholson. It's not a reinvention of any of them. It's not part of the Ben Affleck universe or the Justice League universe or the Harley Quinn universe. None of that. Yeah, it's just out there, man. But anyway, the Joaquin Phoenix, is that how I pronounce his name? He will win Best Actor, in my opinion. So if you've got any spare cash and you want to get, I think $1.90, I saw one, the TAB in Queensland betting on it, $1.57 on Sportsbet. You want to get 50% on your investment, there's a way to do it because he won't lose. He will not lose. And yeah, so look, my final kind of word on it is it was the most unique movie I've ever seen in my life, ever. And I've seen everything. I've never seen a movie quite like it. I thought Scorsese was involved in it, but it turns out it wasn't. But I thought I heard early whispers that Martin Scorsese was involved in this, and De Niro was in it. So I heard it was going to be Scorsese and De Niro. That wasn't the case, and I didn't see Scorsese's credit anywhere. So I don't even think he was an executive producer or anything. But boy, oh boy, they are treating that Joker character with... It's definitely different than I'm sure the Joker was written back in the day as if it was a killer clown, right? And that was just it. That character has turned into one of the most deep, almost Shakespearean characters that's ever been, put into fiction. And they've treated it that way with a depth that it wouldn't surprise me if it got Best Picture, even though it wasn't by any means an entertaining Hollywood. But then isn't that the sort of movie maybe that wins Best Picture? I don't know. But he's going to get Best Actor. It'll probably win Best Picture. It's by no means entertaining whatsoever. But if by entertaining you mean challenging you to think and get out of your, normal day-to-day kind of thought patterns and challenge thought, and then it does exactly that. But boy, it's not a movie where you just want to unlock for a couple of hours and go and sit in the theater and unwind and see Captain America and Batman do their thing. Boy, oh boy, it is not that. So, all right, so that's that. Love your comments below. I'm going to stick around here for a minute. I've got a few people on live, so if you want to have a chat about it, that's cool. But yeah, for those of you who are watching this on the recording, there's my thoughts. I'm probably going to watch it again and maybe do a follow-up. But there you go. Someone wanted a full review. Someone asked me on Instagram. I demand a full review. So I think it was Jay, actually. Jay from the UK, who asked me for a full review. So there you go. There it is. Don't know if that's a full review because I can barely remember it. It's, things just pop back into my head. And I think, you can see I should have taken notes before jumping on here because all the YouTuber purists are probably on there saying, oh, get yourself a coherent thought pattern, idiot. Well, sorry. I just thought I'd jump on, push record, and get some thoughts down while, because it was only yesterday I saw it. Wow, it's pretty fascinating. All right, I'm going to take off. Has anyone got any thoughts here on the live? All right, so still a dozen of us or so on there. All right. So there you go. Maybe some of you guys just didn't want spoilers because I've got a few of you guys on just saying g'day, but no one on kind of with any thoughts, comments, or questions. So I'd love some thoughts, comments, and questions though. If you've seen it, when you've seen it, chuck it down there. And yeah, if you've got anything to add, I'd love to hear your thoughts of where I got it right, where I got it wrong, and I'm sure that second list where I got it wrong is much longer than the first. All right, I'm going to take off. Enjoy your day, gang. Bye for now.